Bark, 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 bark. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, 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 doom. Doom, 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 doom. Doom, 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 doom. Doom, 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 doom. Doom, 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 doom. Bloop, boop, 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 boop. Boop, 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 boop. Bloop, 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 bloop. Bloop, 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 bloop. Do-do-doot. Do-do-doot. Do-do-doot, do-do-doot. Do-do. Do-doot. Loo-loo-loo-loo-loo-loo. Hello, Rigaroga here. Howdy. It is a day where I thought that I would go ahead and try and stream another little bit of RPG stuff. This is Stars Without Number, and it's the continuation of Turn 0 for the factions in the star sector for that I've been creating. And it's been a couple weeks since my last stream about this, and I had a couple of epiphanies. And so I suppose I'll just talk about those. I suspect this will probably be a short one. I'm going to end up not doing as much with the factions, but I just wanted to follow up and maybe just sort of talk through some of the things that I was thinking about and create a stream to add to the thing. Since I had streamed the other one, I might as well, you know, continue on. Let's go ahead and just switch over really quickly to my desktop. I am going to be playing in the background some music, and this music is from Git Commit Glitch, I can't even say it, which is an anthology album that I put together. It's actually the second annual anthology of music that I put together, and for the Odd Order. I have 13 anthologies over at Hermetic Library, which you should check out as well. But these are rewards for people who decide to become patrons, or you can just pick them up and help. It helps support me, and you know, gets you some great music, some awesome participants who are inspired to help out, and so that's something to consider. And so the things that I realized really quickly, let me just go ahead really quickly. This right here is the file that I was using, and when I was working on it, I was creating a whole bunch of factions using these forms, and so the first thing I realized. And I actually had started using a spreadsheet, but then I switched to this when I was doing the live stream. And what I realized is that it's just insane not to do this in a spreadsheet. So this is actually my spreadsheets. So systems and planets, showing which system they're in, which world or world or station there is at this location. And information about the atmosphere and temperature and all that sort of stuff, and then the tags and tech levels. And you'll notice that I also have, of course, I have the alien races and the political groups and the corporations and religions and a bunch of NPCs and all that sort of stuff for doing factions. And I'm going to end up doing factions, but the second epiphany I had when I was doing this was this sort of idea that there's really only two reasons to do this. One is if it's fun, and the second is that you need it for the next play session. And it's a little bit of fun. It's to do the faction turns, but mostly what I realized pitting those kind of factions together was that it's way, way too early to really talk about the factions doing stuff. Because my the characters that I have in the Index Card RPG Warp Shell setting have just shown up, and they haven't even really landed on a planet yet. So, and the design of the sector is going to be determining a whole bunch of stuff too. I also have tracker for faction turns and assets that I'm going to go ahead and use as well when I get there. But so that was the first epiphany, and then the second epiphany was that it was just too early for the factions, and a lot of the planets, there are a couple planets that matter right now, and they're the ones that are really close to where the players are. But I spent a whole bunch of time thinking about this sector, and this is essentially the sector map as it was when I left off the last. Things are a little bit misaligned because I recreated this visual in order to show you the difference. As I was thinking about the system, I ended up creating a star field and stuff. A bunch of assets from this are from Hex Kit, which is oh shoot, I forgot the guy's name. Cecil Howe. Cecil Howe. Anyhow, this is a Hex Kit Spaceland. You should check it out. It's a really cool mapping tool. The one thing about it is that the hexes are actually rotated 90 degrees from the standard Stars Without Number map. So that's a little bit wacky, but you work around it. But you can tell there's just some really cool it's assets, image assets, and then also an actual tool that's Windows, Mac, and Linux, and it does layers and has a display window so that you can capture that for streaming or sharing via Skype or Discord or whatever, and does fog of war and all sorts of stuff. But it's got a lot of really interesting stuff going on. But they're, image layers, a bunch of hexes, and there are a bunch of image assets. Like there's a planet and a moon here and another moon, and it actually, the tool itself has a generator to randomly generate things for you. And so I'm really thinking like this, for the sandbox setting of Stars Without Number, being able to just sort of throw in to Hex Kit and say, generate me a planet based on these settings, based on the tags and whatnot, and I can, futz around with what shows up. It seems like that might be a really good way to go. Like I could really quickly generate a world that the party could adventure on for, who knows how long. And that who knows how long is kind of why I ended up doing things. I'm going to end up doing things a little bit different. Instead of exploring the entire map as I was going to do, and do all the factions and all that sort of fun stuff, what I'm actually going to end up doing is focusing on just sort of background generation, and then also once the players end up, hey kitten, what are you doing? Sneaky, sneaky. That's Moo. Hi Moo. Thanks for visiting. Once the players get past the first system, that's when I'll start bringing in factions, and so the previous factions are going to be dormant, and then these new factions are going to develop with each system that the players end up interacting with. And then the other thing this is kind of a tangent, but the other thing I was really thinking about is either as factions or assets that the factions have, adding in some sort of sports thing. Like it'd be fun to do some sort of fantasy sport, like Chaos Ball or, Blood Bowl, something like that, or maybe something else completely, maybe the Great Game of Ulmore from Star Frontier, but something that has just sort of maybe an entertainment value as another kind of set of games that I could be playing, maybe solo, is, you know, doing a season of this whatever sport, and it'd probably only be like whatever the tech level 3 or 4 and above planets that are actually like making themselves known to other planets and other systems. Like there'd be some setup like that. But so this is currently the sector, and cat, stop it! What are you doing? What are you doing? Stop running in front of me. So this is the sector and a list of all of the planets and which hex they're in. And you can actually, here's the hex system. And you saw the old planets. Now what I have set up is I have all of the systems that are unknown. So these are the ones that the players don't know about. And there's a bunch of areas in here where I kind of am inspired by classical mythology, classical history, mostly in the West, because that's what I know about. But lower Meropis Gamma is like lower Egyptian Nile, lower Egypt, and then upper Meropis Gamma is farther away, is, you know, upstream. So you have all of the lower planets, the Theseus and Circe and Puerta, Reggio, those guys, all sort of gathered together, and then there's this weird line just right down the middle. Hex 0300 all the way through 9 are empty. There's actually a big division in this randomly generated map. And I did change some of the names last time, as you will remember. But I've sort of been working on it. I put in the names, and I have actually, I don't know if you can see it, but I actually have little dots, like here in Thorhalla, there's 3 dots underneath it. And so you might be able to, oh shoot. So you can see actually that there are 3 planets that are in that system. Any other system, a system that doesn't have any dots only has 1. And then I've got a couple that have 2, and then Thorhalla and a few others have 3. Come on, you. What are you doing? Why are you being a problem? Hi. Hi. This is Moo. This is Moonin. Hi. What you doing? Why are you being a butt? Why are you being a butt? Yeah. Okay, go away. Leaping to his doom. Her doom. Her doom. There's only one male cat. I mean, other than me. In the house. So I did do that. Thinking about that with these guys. So we've got lower Meropis Gamma. I'm thinking that in this sector, really, the drives are going to be really just 1s and 2s. 3 is going to be really wacky, and anything above 3 is kind of like not really discovered yet, or old tech that hasn't been recovered. So in the upper corner, there's clearly 5 planets that are within easy trading distance. Then there's a slight divide to the right side. And then basically there's a whole bunch of planets that are within 1 hex of each other. Thoris is a little bit out, and then farther up in Upper Meropis, Yzibus is by itself. Now there's 3 planets, Thoris, Thorhala, and Thordis here, that I think are they're high-tech worlds or high-tech systems, and there's a whole bunch of planets. And I'm thinking that they're actually, this is going to be some major multi-planet faction. And you'll recall that Thordis and Hoki were 2 of the planets that were in the faction battle that I had before. So I'm kind of planning out, I do have some ideas for some multi-planet factions going on here. But like I said, they're going to sit a little bit away and be dormant for now because the characters aren't even anywhere near it. Zooming back out just a little bit, one of the other things that I added, you can see actually, I think, a little bit coming through here in the blank space, dividing a whole bunch of the planets from other planets, is something that I kind of added. It's not really part of the Scream in Stars Without Number, but what it is, it's really a navigational hazard that the Preterition, the Rift, and the Rend are 3 names for this big, long, snaky navigational hazard. And what it really does is the Preterition adds 3, is it like a 3 warp space hazard. The Rift is 2, and then the Rend is adds 1. So really, if you're going from neighboring hexes, which would be 1, and you're crossing, well, it would at least be 2, because you're crossing that intervening hex to a planet. So it'd be 2 plus 1 in the Rend, plus 2 in the Rift, and then an insane plus 3 for the Preterition. So right here around Eurymedon, which is the planet where the players are going to land, or I mean the system where they're going to land, they're actually surrounded by this Preterition. And so this is a planet, this is a system that's been blocked off for who knows how long. I'm kind of thinking that there was a war or something maybe between Eurymedon and Sphinx, and that this war created this navigational hazard, the rip in space that adds travel time. So Eurymedon has 2 planets, and one of them is going to be essentially Gamma World, not Earth Gamma World, but Gamma World, with a bunch of weird mutiny technologies and stuff. And I'm going to use a bunch of Gamma World modules and things like that. I suspect that the players are. I'm going to have months of role playing, solo role playing based on that. And so I don't know when the players are actually going to get into the rest of this, but I've got it set up and ready to go. And I was kind of thinking, like, I might try and do another series without those, with different characters, and start from the other side of Meropis. And then, maybe they meet up in the middle or something. I don't know. It's something to consider. The other thing that I'm thinking about is sort of, if you look at the supplements for Stars Without Number, there's the Bruxelles class, the sort of battle stars. And I'm kind of thinking that there's 12 of those hiding in the Rift. Maybe the Rift was caused by some sort of weird sort of metaspace arc that went from one to the other. And I'm kind of also thinking that there might be some anti-robot sort of Cylon sentiment in this sector because of this previous battle that sort of destroyed navigation in the sector. So I'm thinking when they get to other planets, there's some planets that, I mean, systems and planets that they're going to get to sooner than others. And when they get there, some of them are have some sort of prejudice against the players. Like the players show up and the players are members of that class. Well, you know, they're sentient mecha, so I'm thinking that there's kind of that anti-Cylon sort of antagonism going on, and at some point they're going to discover that these Bruxelles class battle stars are, you know, scattered in the rift somewhere for salvage or, you know, adventuring, you know, sort of space hulky kind of stuff. And the other planet that's in that sort of battle is Sphinx, and I'm kind of seeing Sphinx as being, hey BB, come on, sit down here. I'm kind of thinking of Sphinx as being the middle between upper and lower. Upper and lower Meropis is kind of like its own greater civilization, sort of a syncretic civilization, but this side of the map is really going to be where the players are for the most part to begin with. Oops, and I have one planet that is not showing up, so I need to get Zabaleta back on the map. But how did I not get? Oh, I just didn't do it. Well, okay. No. What the hell? Oh, what are you doing? What the hell? What? Don't even start with me. There is a planet. What is it doing? Is it pasted it up here again? Oh god, that's ridiculous. Hey, cat, don't do that. Okay, so anyhow, let's go ahead and get this one in here. And 0209 Zabaleta. 0209. Okay, so Zabaleta's in there now. Anyhow, so Sphinx is kind of, I'm kind of imagining, you know, the way in Battlestar Galactica where there was I don't even remember what planet, but in both versions of Battlestar Galactica there was some planet with temples on it. In the old Battlestar Galactica, it was, you know, it had the Egyptian pyramids and stuff, and it was sort of a desolate planet. And then in the new one, it was the temple, which showed them the eye of, you know, whatever. And so what I'm imagining is Sphinx is kind of that, it's far enough away from everyone else that it's kind of a lost planet. It's divided from the left side and by the rift and the rend, and it's divided from the right side by being, you know, a couple hexes away from everything. So what I'm really imagining is that it becomes sort of the link between the two sides as soon as we get someone discovers a path from Gatsiudis to Sphinx, and then from Sphinx across the Ren to Zabaleta, and then, you know, around, or the other way, you know, coming from Zabaleta, finding out that Sphinx exists and getting connected to it. And then going to Gatsiudis. So this is going to become a really strategically important, I think, at some point. because as long as, you know, Zebius, the 1, 2, 3, 4, you know, it's at least 4 or 5 hexes away because of the rend being in 0308. So technically, it's really going to be rough and hard to get there. It's going to be a lot easier once they find a route around the Cape of Horn, you know, to get to and from Sphinx. Going from Sphinx across the rift to Hyperborea, I think, is probably going to be less likely than having them go around. In part because the rift adds 2, so that's actually a full 3. Yeah, anyhow. So I'm really thinking of it as kind of being like a Marna. It's going to be like a lost capital, you know, the capital of the Phoenicians or something like that, or, you know, long lost technology is going to be there. And it's going to become a place of strategic importance. And I think I talked a little bit about Hyperborea as being the place that the Meropians tried to invade and stuff. And so I'm gonna you know, come up with some fun things when we get there for the players once they're done with Eurymedon. And on Eurymedon, there's actually 2 planets. If I go back to here, there's actually 2 planets, and we're going to filter based on Eurymedon. So there's Gita and Spio. What? Can't? Oh, that's because I still have some stupid link in there. But basically, one of them is going to be sort of Gamma World, and on Gamma World, I'm thinking maybe they're going to lose their warp shell. And get stuck there, or the warp shell is going to be damaged or something, but they're going to be stuck discovering whatever technology is there. And there's a major space yard, and there's a sequence of Gamma World planets, or I mean campaigns that basically lead up to the building of a space shuttle. And what I'm kind of imagining is maybe the 13th Bruxelles Battlestar is in pieces on Gamma World, and the players are going to have to go through those Gamma World modules in order to get the pieces together and put together this Battlestar, this Bruxelles class cruiser. And then that's going to lead them to being able to go off to other systems and, you know, go through maybe not the Preterition, but at least the Rift, maybe locating other Bruxelles class starships in the that have been lost, and then all the adventures that come from that. But I'm kind of thinking that sequence goes along. And it also, as I was reading the Gamma World modules, it kind of sounded like you could lead from the Gamma World modules into sort of a Metamorphosis Alpha, or, you know, some other sort of space adventures that I might explore. And the reconstruction of the last Gamma World module actually has a moon base, and I'm kind of thinking moon base Alpha is also like the Alpha complex, and so maybe some paranoia. I might do some paranoia modules, which I've got a bunch of, and have have my characters run through them, fighting off the Clone Wars and all that sort of stuff. But that's kind of where I was at after the 2 weeks of really looking at this. I did a lot of thinking and developing some of the backstory and like what the next sequence of events are going to be. But I think that the mecha crew are going to be on Eurymedon, in the Eurymedon system, and they're going to be on Gita, which is the Gamma World, and it's mainly Badlands with major space yard, tech level 2 for the most part, but there's, you know, low population, it's going to be all the mutants, and they're going to have all those adventures, and they're going to try and sort of piece together a Bruxelles class carrier, and then from there they're going to go into sort of the more spacey adventures again. But that's kind of where I've been thinking. And you know, I'll keep developing the faction systems, and maybe when we get to the right side of the map, then I'll start up the sports league of some kind, and maybe I'll play those as a separate session, and just sort of, you know, make some sort of season tree, and have them battle it out, and then, you know, as part of the faction round, I'll also have the results from the sporting events and things like that. So that might be kind of cool. And I'm thinking of using HexKit to develop some hexcrawl planet surfaces. So when I do get to these planets, it'll be a lot more visual. You know, I can just, you know, quickly zap those out and get them going. Especially once I get past, like, if I do run through the Gamma World modules and the Paranoia adventures and things like that, have it be a lot more sandboxy now that I'm in this sector for Stars Without Number. And maybe if I, you know, start up some additional player groups going off and doing stuff in the other parts of the sector, then you know, maybe those ones will start in lower Meropis Gamma and start their adventures along the other way. Anyhow, so I just wanted to follow up. I think that's probably all I really have to say at this point. I'm not going to do a faction turn. I kind of only did a couple factions just to try it out. But again, I was, you know, thinking I'm just going to put factions into dormancy until the players, the characters are actually out of the one system and start interacting. And then I'll build factions as I go, and bring them in. And then, you know, once we get to the right side of the map, there's going to be a hegemon that runs a whole bunch of stuff from Thoris to Thorhalla to Thordis. And so maybe that'll be like an evil empire or something like that they can battle when they get there. But anyhow, trying to think if there's anything else new that I've been thinking about on this, but yeah, I'm kind of thinking that might be it. That might be everything that I wanted to cover as sort of a wrap up of the turn 0 for Meropis Gamma. If you have any thoughts or whatever about Meropis Gamma, you know, themes that you'd be interested in seeing, or if you are inspired or whatever by some of the stuff I've talked about, and have thoughts, just let me know. Yeah, so thanks for watching this follow-up, and that finishes really all I have to do pretty much for turn 0, and then it basically now is going to be on hold until the mecha crew from Index Card RPG ends up doing some stuff outside of the system that they're currently in. So Meropis Gamma, it's set up and ready to go. It just turns out to be way too early. So thanks for checking in and listening to me ramble about everything that has happened in the last couple weeks for Meropis Gamma, and that brings turn 0 to an end. Thanks. Bye.